this is a chat about Facebook, and this is going to not really be any kind of tutorial on Facebook. I know quite a bit enough to be dangerous, but I'm hoping that you all will chime in and I can learn some things from you too. I have some good content to put up on the screen for us to look at for the purpose of getting conversations going. And then we've got a couple of polls. Let's see how Tori and I can figure out how to screw that up. And by Tori and I mean me. So we'll give those a try. And otherwise, we've got a lot of things to talk about. If you were here last time, there's some elements that have stayed and some that have departed from our format. No longer with us is the countdown clock that I was just completely hapless with the last time we did one of these. But we did like the idea of the agenda. And so if I can get this to, yes, there we go. Running down the left-hand margin there are the things that we're going to try and accomplish during this hour or so. And Tori is going to be my countdown clock just to try and keep me from getting too far behind in touching on all these subjects. Like I said, I want to talk a little bit about a lot of things, and we may not be able to do too deep of a dive with any one of these things. But like this orientation slide says, we've found the chat function to be really helpful in terms of who's got an example or an idea to share from their own campus. If you want to talk, we're now cocky enough to know how to turn on microphones, and you feel free to chime in to Bob and Tori's talk show here. And otherwise, put some content in the chat, and then we can share that whole document when we're done. And maybe you'll find some good contact people from other institutions in the same boat that you are, or you're like an example that somebody brought up, and you can follow up with them directly. So use and abuse chat. That's how we're going to figure out who's got a good point to share, who's got a good comment they might want to say over the audio, or otherwise will be our repository of things we glean from this conversation, okay? And I keep committing to this. We will try to be sure we have a recording available after this. As I like saying, Tori, in the unlikely event people find something useful in this conversation. So, so let's get cracking. I have been pondering Facebook for a long time now, and I keep seeing incremental progress with how Facebook is weaving its way into annual giving programs. The pivotal moment for me kind of goes back to that ice bucket challenge from, I don't even want to guess how many years ago, 10 now maybe, where on Facebook everybody was dumping buckets of ice water on their heads and challenging their friends to do the same thing and make a gift to the ALS Society or the Lou Gehrig's disease folks. You know, there was a kid in Boston, I think, affiliated with the Red Sox, or maybe Boston College, who was kind of the originator of the idea. And that led to $115 million being raised for ALS without any real grand strategy driving it. It just, to me, was a revelation of how powerful social media can be in general, and in many ways, Facebook in particular. So fast forward up to now, and you see things like this headline: the guy who won the Heisman Trophy, Joe Burrow, who was from Southeast Ohio, which is a pretty impoverished corner of the state, and was very eloquent, if you caught his speech, talking about how they're in need of help in that part of the country. And just by bringing that up, and because of social media and a little bit about Facebook and GoFundMe, they raised about $300,000 for the needy in Southeast Ohio. Then there was the guy who played for Stephen F. Austin University back, I think, right around the Christmas holidays, at Duke. And Stephen F. Austin beat Duke at Duke, which nobody ever does. So this guy right here is making the winning shot. It turned out he was from the part of the Bahamas that had just been hit with the hurricanes. Excuse me. And so that became a social media fundraising sensation by itself. This guy talking about the needs of his family, his village had been wiped out. And sure enough, Stephen F. Austin wound up receiving $130,000 just because everybody connected the dots with learning about this guy and learning how to go onto social media and make a gift. So I lay awake at night sometimes thinking that, have we fully scratched all these itches about how to use social media in fundraising. And especially these days, I think if there was ever a good time just to have a check-in about this topic and what we're doing on Facebook, I thought this might be a worthwhile discussion. So thanks for everybody who's joined in. I have a couple of questions just to get the ball rolling here. Okay, Tori, let's see if I can get my poll going here. Launch my polling. There's this picture of the Washington and Lee annual giving page, and I always find this a useful place to start because this is a question I get asked about a lot. Should we have an annual giving Facebook page? I'll give you my opinion in a second. First, tell me, do you have an annual giving or related to that, a development fundraising page or a foundation Facebook page? Please don't include like your alumni relations page, anything that's more engagement. There are a few popping up, and I think this what makes this an interesting discussion. And the 5 of you or so who've already made the mistake of saying, yes, we have an annual giving Facebook page, I really hope you'll chime in, because I am sort of curious about what your goals are in having an annual giving Facebook page. Okay, I'm going to end the poll there, but you can see only about 1 out of 5 of the folks listening in has an annual giving specific Facebook page. So then my question becomes, what's your goal for that? Is to get people to like the annual giving Facebook page? Is it because your alumni relations people want you to go away and not talk about fundraising on their page, along with maybe every other social media site at your institution? What I sometimes get concerned about is an annual giving Facebook page is a symptom of too many gatekeepers kind of stopping you from putting too much fundraising content on their institution page. And so I used to be kind of categorically opposed to having annual giving Facebook pages. I'm now a little more tolerant because I've seen places that have educated me that the existence of an annual giving Facebook page is still useful for launching things like Facebook ads or sponsored posts or other content that can be shared with your other institutional Facebook pages. It's kind of a good clubhouse in Facebook for a lot of annual giving things I'm trying to accomplish. I want to differentiate that for me, that's different from trying to get people to like the Facebook annual giving page. So I don't want you to think you need this for the wrong set of metrics. To me, I think this is a good base camp for a lot of other things I can do on Facebook, because you need an account that you can be billed to for annual giving content or a lot of other things that you want to post and then share on Facebook. So I hope that makes sense. Tori, do you mind if I ask you, is there a UNR annual giving page?
So no, there is not. We have an alumni association page and a donor relations page. So we have 2 separate ones. The donor relations is more kind of our magazine content. And then they do share whenever we have crowdfunding projects or specific initiatives. And then alumni association tends to shy away from the philanthropic side of things. They don't want to be that giving avenue.
Yeah. Anya has made the double mistake of saying she's happy to share how she's using Facebook pages for annual giving. Anya, if it's okay, I'm gonna, you're unmuted.
I unmuted her, yep.
Go ahead and chime in. Hi.
Hi, so I am from Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington, and we are about 2,500 undergrad. We're a Christian university, and actually, Tori, hearing what you just shared about your donor relations page sounds similar to what I said yes to in the poll. So we have a Facebook page and an Instagram page called Whitworth Gives. So it's not necessarily specific to annual giving, but every Tuesday we do, so our schedule and other things will come in throughout the year, but every Tuesday we highlight a scholarship recipient because at the beginning of every year, all of our scholarship recipients fill out a scholarship biography. So we pull quotes from that and a photo of the student to post on Tuesday, and we call them our Gratitude Tuesday posts. And we'll share like their major and their hometown, and we always tag the student, and particularly, so the Facebook audience is definitely alum and faculty and staff. and Instagram is where like a lot of more current students and younger alumni follow. So, and Whitworth has a lot of Instagram accounts for unique departments as well on campus. So when I'm the one who runs those pages, and when I tag the student and maybe their department, or if they're an athlete, if I tag like Whitworth Athletics, like the other students on campus love to see their friends showing up on Whitworth Gives. So that's more of a donor relations side. And then on Thursday, we will post something a little bit more giving related, which could be either impact, like with our current emergency fund that we have going for students. We just shared some recent stats that just demonstrate the impact of how donors have been supporting students, or we'll talk about the crowdfunding projects on Thursdays. So it's really become a funnel, and then we do a giving day in February. So during that time, we always have fun posts planned that highlight the different departments that have crowdfunding projects. So we'll do like boomerang videos, or we'll like reshare things from other accounts as well. Or we also work closely with the main Whitworth University page, because they do a good job balancing just Whitworth stories and news and events with stories that also highlight donor impact. So we will either reshare content from them, or they'll reshare things from us. So
Thanks.
That's kind of the summary.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And we'll
Thanks
come
for
back.
sharing.
I'll probably ask you more about some of the other things you talked about when we get into some of the other items on the agenda. But it's the Whitworth Gives Facebook page. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll type it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. And am I right in sort of saying it's like a base camp where you can put content, and then some of the other pages at Whitworth, you can share to those pages. An important point you made that I think we'll come back to is tagging people in your posts, which then expands you into their web of friends, and sort of has that echo effect, right? And I think that is good thinking, regardless of what use of Facebook we're talking about in this chat. But am I saying that right? That maybe the goal isn't so many likes for the Whitworth Gives page, or you can tell me that it is, but it also seems like you're accomplishing a lot of other things by just using your page to put content out and have it sort of shared in other locations. And is that fair?
Right, yeah, like I think the struggle right now is just in light of COVID-19, there's so much going on Facebook already. Just getting engagement and having the posts be seen is becoming a little bit more of a struggle on Facebook. But yeah, it's not, I mean, we would love people to engage especially if it's like a student that's highlighted on a Tuesday, if they share the Facebook post, or if like mom or aunt goes and shares the Facebook post, like the reach is way further. So but yes, it has become a good way to be a little bit of a base camp for other pages.
This is a mischievous question, and then I'll let you catch your breath. I mean, you could be putting content out all day. How do you decide if it's been a good year, and what winds up being the metrics?
With reviewing Facebook,
just
like with our content.
What's a good year for Whitworth Gives? Is there any answer to that?
I think not so much with metrics. Like we do often look at like what's our post reach, what's the engagement. Like we do pay attention to how many people have actually liked the page. But I think what I would say is more important to us is if the stories and the posts, the content that we're sharing, if it's showing impact, gratitude, like the difference that donors are making, like we consider that successful, because I work very closely with donor relations and our team with annual giving here at Whitworth. So it's very much a collaborative effort it's in line with other communications or appeals that are also going out. So I think when we look at it in the holistic picture of does it align with our goals of annual giving and donor relations, then we consider that to be a success.
Yeah, when Facebook was newer, I think the only metric a lot of us knew of was how many likes do you have on your page. Mm-hmm. And rather than somebody liking Whitworth Gives, I think I'd rather they just give to Whitworth. But but now we have more layers, and we figured out more functionality, and we figured out more ways to define success with these things. And that's why this conversation is relentlessly interesting to me, because it's always a moving target, right? And then they keep changing the algorithm too, which will come to more.
Yep.
Thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll be back. So thanks for being here. My next agenda item was just kind of to talk a little bit about what are we trying to accomplish with the content we put on Facebook. It's easy to say, well, we want people to make immediate gifts, which is sort of the example I've got here, which is kind of a standard year-end countdown series of Facebook posts, all of which, you know, will take you directly to the UMBC giving site. But I've also appreciated that different places sometimes are trying to accomplish different things. Let me see if I can get my next poll going here. Let's see. Oh, I want to do it up here. What's your goal when you post content on Facebook? Okay, here comes this poll. Do you want direct gifts, and that's your single-minded focus? Is it more just an extra channel to promote things like your giving day, like the year-end giving, like holiday giving, Giving Tuesday? Are you talking just more generally about philanthropy and beating the drum, sort of like what I hear Anya saying when she's spotlighting scholarship recipients or spotlighting donors? Do you have another sort of objective in there? Are you trying to boost your likes? Are you trying to sort of manage your potential audience for things on Facebook? We'll talk more about that as we go too. Is it just more general engagement about stuff in general, not even necessarily specific to giving? Or something else? There is no something else. So, but interesting, sort of this span of stuff. You know, one of the things I should have said at the beginning, Tori, is how you know, whether you're a large shop or a small shop is going to impact dramatically on how present and how much time you even have to think about some of these strategies, how sophisticated you can be with some of these strategies. So I want all of you to know that I know that you know that I know that, you know, some places have a dedicated sort of social media person, sometimes even dedicated annual giving social media person, and in other places you may be well back in the line at the door of whoever is doing social media for your campus, trying to beg them to do something for your giving day. So I get that. It is interesting though. I wasn't wrong in thinking that there's a range of objectives that people are trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Go ahead, chime in.
No, one thing we noticed at ours with our campus-wide Facebook and social media is there is a little fear when it comes to asking for money or sharing giving related topics. So that's a big goal of ours this coming year, is to really remove those fears and those barriers around philanthropy for our campus-wide Facebook.
It just occurs to me, and you haven't seen all these yet. By the way, Tori, I'm getting better at picking questions that are multiple choice questions. So we have a tie talking about date-specific promotions of things like a Giving Day or Giving Tuesday, and also just more broad engagement in general. You know, who is your favorite faculty member, or here's a picture from your old yearbook, stuff like that. It's interesting to me that only a third of folks are really thinking about Facebook in a direct make a gift now sort of context. You know, although you could check a couple of boxes on here. So that's interesting to me. All right, let's see if I can, let me see if I can make that go away. Are you still seeing my poll? Tori, is my poll still there? Is it gone?
I'm seeing it, but I also see the host view. So if someone else can just say yes or no in the chat.
Okay, wait a minute. Here it is. Stop share results. Okay, good.
There we go.
Okay. So just to make the point, there's a couple of different calls to action with Facebook. And I mean, if you're sort of pondering how you use Facebook just as a fundraising silver bullet, I see a lot of annual giving programs who are beating the drum and using Facebook as a channel, but not necessarily with a single-minded focus on fundraising. Okay. Let's talk about posting content, kind of like what Anya was talking about. And a couple of things here. I wanted to ask about social media ambassadors. I don't think I have a poll for this, but am curious. I don't, but one of the smart synergies that I'm seeing at a lot of places, if you do Facebook posts, is to recruit some people who will share on your behalf. Tori, anything at UNR with social media volunteers?
We don't. This is definitely not. We have a lot more control. We want more control over our content, so we don't have volunteers right now sharing content.
I think if you're running a bare bones operation and maybe you accomplish one thing with Facebook, it's probably just getting some drumbeat for philanthropy on your pages, whether they're the institutional page or the fundraising clubhouse page, and see if you can't find some folks who will reshare and thumbs up and otherwise endorse what you're doing. It's a great role for annual giving committees. It's a great role for class volunteers. Great role for phone-a-thon callers, by the way. I see an extra synergy with those folks these days. But just to make the point, anybody got a social media ambassador program that they're proud of? Is it Nikki who is using Social Toaster?
Yes.
You know, we're not here to give a sales pitch for anybody, but if somebody's listening in and is having a good experience with something like Social Toaster or any other volunteer management platform, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Nikki, I'm going to cross my fingers that you might like to say hi. And
and while you find Nikki on that, I'll say I know a lot of the crowdfunding platforms have the ability to do some ambassador type stuff with social media. But that is tied specifically to crowdfunding or giving days, not necessarily to just your general content.
Nikki, are you there? Do you want to say hi and tell me how to say your name right so I don't keep saying it wrong?
No, it's Nikki. Nikki for sure.
All right.
Nikki for sure, yes.
Okay. Hi.
How are you? How's everyone?
Good. Thanks for raising your hand. Tell us about Social Toaster. Does this mean you're a fan?
I am a big fan. It's actually our alumni relations office. It's housed in there. They're the ones who have ownership of it. But what happens is when we're pushing out any type of content, we have complete control over the content. We have complete control of what's being said, what's being shared. And it's also a way to get people to be alumni more involved, because if you share a certain amount of content over different platforms, the alums can, kind of get points. And after a certain amount of times or hours or days, when their points accumulate, they get a gift from the Alumni Association. So that's how it helps us. But we mostly use it for our giving day, but we have this thing called Philanthropy Fridays. And we use that to push out that on social media as well for annual giving.
So thank you for that. And you're at Towson State, right?
Yes. Yep.
And for anybody who's just not familiar with Social Toaster, just like Nikki's saying, essentially your volunteers authorize you in advance to use their social media channels. And so on a giving day, for example, if you want to send out a Facebook post, it will automatically go onto the feed of everybody who's volunteered to help with a giving day. Am I saying that right, Nikki?
Yes.
And there's the additional element that the word that didn't exist when I got into annual giving is gamification, right? That now it sort of makes it a competition to see who can have the broadest reach and who can, have the biggest connections among their audiences. So if you really want to jump all in with sort of this social media ambassador idea, and I'd probably give yourself a little bit of the sanity of managing it in a more user-friendly platform, you would use something like Social Toaster. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's easy to imagine Facebook being prominent in that, but it doesn't have to be just Facebook, right? What platforms can you fold into that?
We've done LinkedIn, we do Twitter, we do Instagram as well.
Yeah, okay. So it's sort of one-stop shopping, and then you must have like a master control dashboard where you can see all that liking and sharing and posting and good. So have you been using it for a while? Is this a fairly new experience?
It's a fairly new. We've only been using this for about a year. Like I said before, our alumni relations my colleagues over in alumni relations, they have complete control of it. So like for me in annual giving, when I do a giving day, I pretty much just share with them what I would like the content to be. And then they create it, and then those who are signed up get an email saying, hey, giving day is 22 days away, please share, and it'll pop up. You can share on Facebook, you can share on Twitter, you can share on LinkedIn, and then you just pick what platforms you want it to share on.
Yeah. Tori, Nikki is so good. While she's talking to us, she's answering questions in the chat at the same time.
I noticed that. Do you want to fire me and hire her instead?
Sorry to be slowing you up, Nikki. And there's there's other platforms too. In addition to, Social Toaster is particularly geared towards having an army of volunteers. If anybody has any other solutions that are useful in this kind of a way, feel free to chime in and note them in the chat section too. But so, Nikki, am I wrong in overstating the value of these volunteers? Is this a lot of organization with not a lot to show for it? It sure sounds like it's worth your while.
It is worth our while because we also have buy-in from the university's Facebook page and the university's Twitter. So it's kind of like everybody's talking about the same thing at one time.
Yeah.
So that's what helps when it comes to generating quote unquote the buzz. So that way, if I'm an alum and I go on my Facebook page and I'm also logging in and typing in Towson University's Facebook page, we're all talking the same thing. So it's like kind of like our ambassadors are in the know.
Yeah.
And sometimes we give them information, we share content with them before things are even announced, publicly. So that way it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I want to become an ambassador because it seems like they're noticing the stuff beforehand, they're helping us announce the stuff beforehand. So yeah, it's well received at Towson University. And like I said before, we've only had it for a year, but so far so good. Like our alumni relations office, they love it as well too.
So before I go on, I have this picture up of recruiting social media ambassadors at the University of Texas at Dallas, and I'll give them credit for trying to get into this game and have ambassadors. I worry that language is a little passive, like let us know if you want to be an ambassador. Can you speak to, do you just announce you're looking for ambassadors and people come running, or do you need to be a little assertive in saying, I know you commented on our posts, would you like to be an ambassador? How do you get your ambassadors?
So yes, we do also, we noticed that you commented on our post, would you like to be one? But I also do know that with our alumni relations team, when we have our different affinity groups and our events at the different affinity groups, we also ask them as well there to sign up if they would like to be a social ambassador. And then all of our leadership in our different groups, that's one of the tasks that they're given when they're onboarded, is to be a social media ambassador.
Yeah, but you can't be a spectator in this, right? You kind of have to be assertive, and you got to work the playbook, right?
Yes.
Thank you for all that. We could easily be back to you later too, but thank you. I want to get into Facebook ads a little bit specifically, just because there's a couple of points I want to make here, and I've seen some things evolve over the last couple of years. I think I got a poll for this. Tori, let's see how this goes. Question number 3, launch polling. Have you done a Facebook ad or a boosted post for your annual giving program? Let's see. I'm getting some, the yeses are winning. 2 to 1, 3 to 1. Okay, and this is a pretty purposefully kind of vague question, and I suspect a lot of people might be listening in because they're already doing something in a Facebook space. Here's the results. A sort of narrow majority of people have already done something with a Facebook ad. There they are right there. Okay, and I'm going to say stop sharing, and let's talk about that a little bit. And again, chime in if I touch on a subject that really strikes a note with what you've done for annual giving with Facebook ads. I just want to make the point, if you weren't aware of this already on this slide, that educational institutions, especially colleges and universities, enjoy an advantage over almost anybody else that wants to advertise on Facebook, in that you're already in the profile of a lot of your target audiences. And so that gives you such efficiency at being precise about who your audience is. So this is just one example where I said, give me everybody from Ohio State who's living overseas in Europe. And you can see on the little thermometer there, they'll tell me exactly, it's exactly 2,600 people. And that just as a general base of operation puts you in a nice place. And we'll talk about where some of your audiences might not be traditional audiences like alumni in a little bit, but just in general, why I think this is worth paying attention to is because you've got an efficiency that a lot of advertisers would kill for, frankly, in being able to see so exactly who the audience is that we're trying to talk to.
Well, and especially with that Gen X and late millennial population, because we had to have an affiliation with the university to even join Facebook in the beginning. So that education data is pretty accurate for that older, like the young Gen X and older millennials.
Yeah. And anybody who spent more than a little bit of time on this, Facebook can drive you crazy because they'll change their algorithm and or they'll get annoyed when you have too small of an audience. But just so you know, in general, I think it's worth paying attention to how you use annual giving, how you use Facebook as an annual giving channel, because we've got a luxury that not a lot of advertisers have. And last I checked, it was still quite cost effective to have some kind of presence on Facebook. Some things that have caught my eye lately that I just want to bring to your attention is all the interests that you can search on when you're trying to identify a Facebook audience. If you're at a large institution, these can be subsets of your alumni population, but these could also be people in the geographic area of where you're located. Now that a lot of us have gotten into crowdfunding and are doing very specific projects for the gardening on campus or the architecture, the agriculture program that happens on your campus, just football lovers. It's really interesting to wade into all the ways Facebook can sort of tag people with different interests and different hobbies. And so, when I was a boy in annual giving and we just wanted you to give to the annual fund, maybe this isn't as useful of an idea. But as I see a lot of us getting into sort of micro campaigns, if you will, and crowdfunding, it's interesting to me that there's this audience out there. By the way, if you haven't talked to whoever the person is on your campus who's doing student recruitment with Facebook and social media, they know this kind of stuff to an art form, and they can go in and see who's watching Nickelodeon or who likes softball, all these things that are good predictors of who's got kids that we should put on our Facebook target list. If any of this strikes a nerve with what you're doing, please let us know, because I think this is worth paying attention to, but it's still kind of theoretical in a lot of the places I get to. Beyond some of our traditional audiences, I now start to see places playing in Facebook with zip codes and with geography. So this is Temple University in Philadelphia, and this is a fundraising appeal for baby boxes. So the surrounding neighborhood in Temple is kind of blue collar, kind of run down, and has an unusually high infant mortality rate. So this is a fundraising appeal that Temple has conducted around the geographic area of Philadelphia with targeted zip codes where they want the Facebook ad for this to appear among people that are neighbors of Temple but are in a position to do something to help the center city families that live close to campus. So not a typical alumni appeal or even a parents of students appeal, but an audience that Temple can identify because they're in the neighborhood in the desirable parts of town, I guess, if you will. And so Facebook gives you the ability, you can see here, as part of the selection of audiences. You can even go in and pick specific zip codes and also exclude specific zip codes too. So if anybody is doing anything along those lines, I would be very interested in seeing that. Tori, do you have Paul teed up to speak? Paul, I know what you're talking about.
We're going to put him on the spot. He didn't say if he's okay with being unmuted,
well,
but I think I'm going to put him on the spot and
he should
unmute
know.
him.
He should know better than to speak up. Paul, I know right what you're getting at in terms of behavioral stuff, but I'd love it if you want to chime in. It sounds like you've got a story to tell there. Are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Fess up.
Pretty good. Sorry, we're in the middle of meeting, so if you hear stuff prattling and wrangling around. Forgive me.
All right. No, forgive us, but thank you.
We played with that a while back, both at Michigan State and at Florida National University while I was there. The behavioral targeting feature within Facebook actually allows you to get even farther down than just interest, which is basically looking at people that have a historical behavior online through Facebook or through other sites to actually make online purchases, to make online payments. And within that subcategory, there's also one for philanthropic behavior. It's actually able to tell you that, especially with their new Facebook fundraiser feature, people that are inclined to donate, that are a sub part of your group. And as that Facebook fundraisers, I'll show you, get there later, it's on your list, will actually make that data even more rich, because we'll know that people are interested in supporting and that they're supporting things like the World Wildlife Federation, et cetera, because it's all in our data on Facebook. It's probably on my profile directly. So then using the ad, you can target people, like if you have a vet school, you can target the people that are supporting those other organizations that are also part of your demographics. So sub-targeting within it.
Paul, thanks for that. And remind everybody where you are today.
Well, actually, I'm in the middle of getting somewhere today. So I'll be starting at Tyler Junior College.
Oh,
June 8th.
Well, congratulations. And I'm glad Paul brought this up. And I said I was afraid we wouldn't be able to do too deep of a dive today. But if you go into Facebook ads and just look at some of the functionality that's there in terms of the choices you can make. So I brought up interests, I brought up geography. Paul's exactly right. You can also look at a whole section on behavior kinds of things, which is who's made an online gift, who's an online shopper, people who are very comfortable, in this space in actually making a response to your call to action. So, you can start to stack those things by what people are interested in, along with who's more likely to actually do something, right? And so that's a really good insight that I just think becomes more interesting as we get more equipped to talking about facets of our fundraising and facets of our giving opportunities. My opinion is that this only becomes more useful as time goes by. Okay, I always turn the clicker the wrong way. Let's see. I want to make this point that increasingly, if you're advertising on Facebook, you're also advertising on a bunch of other online sites. Facebook now increasingly has a network of other partners that are on social media and on digital stuff. I've got a picture here. Oh, yeah, there it is. This is on the far left here. This is from the Weather Channel app. And I can see there's a pretty good thunderstorm moving over Omaha, Nebraska, heading towards Chicago, where I'm sitting. The thing that catches my eye about this, look down at the bottom, there's an ad for Give Campus in my Weather Channel app. And Give Campus is not paying money to advertise on the Weather Channel, really. What Give Campus is doing is uploading a list of conference attendees where I just saw them, with the last conference I was at. They then set up a Facebook ad that goes into these other places because it's part of the Facebook advertising network. And I want to get that on your radar screen too, if anybody else is doing something and is aware of this, that it's no longer just a question of should we be on Facebook or not. It's should we be on Facebook and all these other things that Facebook touches. So the other two pictures there off of my phone are promoting the Sarah Lawrence Giving Day and the NC State Giving Day, which are two pages that I have liked just because, I'm just aware of what they do on their giving days. But now because I've liked them, it now shows up on these third-party newspaper sites because these things are increasingly getting integrated. So if you're trying to think of Facebook as a Facebook good, Facebook bad question, just remember that Facebook now includes a lot of other sites. And when you set up an ad like Paul was describing, there's a question there that says, do you also want your ad to appear in the Facebook network of social media collaborators or something like that? And that is what also puts you into the game of being seen in places like this by the same people that you were trying to target, just in different social media that they're opening up.
Bob, I have a question on that real quick that I'd love to hear you chime in on, or if others want to chime
I'll
in.
try.
Is there a concern from a university standpoint of leveraging these retargeting capabilities outside of Facebook that we perhaps are selling our alumni or parent data?
Bob and Tori are not asking anyone to do anything illegal or anything that would look bad in the campus newspaper in this presentation. So, Tori, it's a perfectly good question. And I have a picture of Mark Zuckerberg testifying in Congress at the end of this, just with the caveat that, we should always just be mindful of, data privacy issues and all that. So, and maybe there's layers to that. I think my next slide here is if.
Yeah, and if anyone has done these types of retargeting with the Facebook affiliates, if you've had any feedback or responses to that, please put them into the chat and we'll take a look at those.
Yeah, so here's a couple of pictures from Vassar College that are customized lists, which you can take lists of people with their email addresses and upload them into Facebook. And here's two segments that Vassar's using. So one is their loyal donors that would be lapsing if they don't make their gift before the end of the fiscal year. And then the one on the right is just general young alum graduates of Vassar. So they've created two separate segment audiences and put them up into Facebook and did a variation in the wording here for which ad appears in front of which group. This list on this page is some things I've seen other campuses doing with customized lists on Facebook. So anybody we didn't reach in the phone-a-thon, anybody that I can see doesn't even open the email that we send out to them, people who are about to become lapsed if we get to June 30th and they haven't made their gift yet, or just anybody young, sort of is what Vassar was doing there. I see those in practice right now at some other places. But new paragraph to your question, that doesn't mean we should be casual, right, about how we're using the data and people's perceptions of how we're misusing their data. And so I think everybody needs to know their own audience. I think this is a very interesting channel. It's one thing that Give Campus is using my name because I was on the attendee list at a conference, right? It's another thing to be taking every parent that you have for this year's class and just linking to them in Facebook too. So, and how does it read in the newspaper is one standard, right? Is that the problem? And certainly before the pandemic started to happen, I think you saw this slowly increasing sensitivity to data privacy. And you only have to look over into Europe and the UK to see all the legislation that's happened over there.
And California has it on their ballot.
That's
for
right.
November.
It just, yeah.
Yeah, which will have a huge implication for a lot of us.
So stay tuned with that. And I'm certainly sympathetic to Tori's question. And if anything becomes illegal, you didn't hear us recommend it as an idea. But I do think it's worthwhile to be aware of what the possibilities are here. And there's certainly other colleges and universities and institutions that are pushing this envelope and are taking advantage of the functionality that Facebook offers. So, but to thine own self be true, right? Okay, let's see. I want to talk about Facebook fundraisers, just because I've been watching this percolate for a couple years too, and it's slowly, I think, becoming a thing. If any of you have been following Facebook fundraisers, and I'll bet a lot of you have friends who say in their Facebook feed, it's my birthday today, and to wish me a happy birthday, you can support this cause that I've identified as a charity, and it's got the little thermometer and it shows how many people have donated. When it first started, Facebook fundraisers were a huge thorn and too many problems to even think about. The money was technically being routed through Network for Good, which meant that technically Network for Good was the donor, not the donor in the first place. We were getting no information about who the donors were, which really doesn't help me a whole lot in trying to build relationships with these people, right? I think Facebook might have even taken a surcharge, or at least they were making it difficult to, engage directly with people. But some of those logs in the road have been removed over time. So now you don't have to set things up through Network for Good. A college or university or school can go online and get approved as an official Facebook charity, which means anybody that gives through a Facebook fundraiser, the money comes straight to your institution. That makes your finance office a whole lot happier. The donor can elect to tell you who they are, which removes one layer of anonymity, even though it's still not perfect, that the donor has to opt in to allow that to happen. So I think Facebook is trying to slowly make this better, even if it's not there today. But I'm now seeing places like this, the Dresden Elementary School, doing its own fundraising with a Facebook fundraiser. I've got more here. This woman, Bobby, is the president of Miles College, which is a historically black college down in Georgia or Alabama, I think. And so for her birthday, she made her college her fundraiser. She's right in the midst of this right now. You can still give to this right now if you want to. And so one place is being that hands-on with Facebook fundraisers that the president is using it for her birthday. I should stop there and just say, what's everybody thinking at the moment for Facebook fundraisers? And I think I got my last poll here, Tori, which says Facebook fundraisers. Tell me which of the following apply to you. You've benefited from somebody who named you as their cause for a Facebook fundraiser, maybe not even with your knowledge. Or we applied to be a recipient, so we were a little more formally authorized, and if anybody does a fundraiser, we get the money from it. Or we're now proactively helping people that want to sponsor us on their birthday so that they do it the way we'd like them to do it. Or last but not least, we have nothing to do with Facebook fundraisers, which is almost the unanimous choice to this point.
Yes. And I would kind of, probably a good segue into the next agenda item with this is if you've leveraged Facebook fundraisers in tandem with your giving day. And if you kind of uploaded that in on the back end of your giving day, that would be a curious point too, to hear how people are leveraging that side of it.
Okay, polling is closed. Let me show you how we're not involved with Facebook fundraisers at the moment.
Yeah.
But a few people there, the 3, who've said we've sort of serendipitously benefited from a Facebook fundraiser. And at least one, well, only one, who has said we actually applied so that the funds flow directly to us.
Who's the one? Chime in on the
if anybody
chat.
wants to chime in, either tell the story about how you benefited or the person who actually got the approval. I mean, I guess at some point,
I think knowing that the names now come with it, because I would say even as recently as 18 months ago, the names were not coming with the gift. And that was where our gifts processing team said, no way.
Yeah, so I wanted to show this. So if you didn't realize, there are other not-for-profits who are using Facebook fundraising right under your nose with your own students. So look at how mischievous the American Cancer Society is, and I'm just making fun of them. But these all came up because I searched on university in Facebook fundraising. And you don't see many university fundraisers, but you see a whole bunch of other not-for-profits that are using your students to do fundraising right in your midst on your campus. So it's people in the fraternities and sororities, or dance marathons and stuff like that, that other organizations have woken up to the fact that you've got an available volunteer population right on your campus that they're happy to use themselves. So this is tough love, right? How long are you going to let these people sort of borrow your students in celebrating their cause? And I realize we're trying to teach philanthropy, not just philanthropy to us, right? So I get that. But it's striking to me that if I search on college or university in Facebook fundraising, like my poll showed, I get very few where the beneficiary is actually the institution. But there's all kinds of college and university fundraising going on in Facebook fundraisers on our campuses, being proactively driven by some of these other not-for-profit organizations. So I'm saying this with a smile, but it might be worth your interest at some point to be a little proactive for those people who want you to be their beneficiary, walk them through how you do that the best way. And if we're educating our students about all these other good causes out there, why can't we be one at some point, right? So again, when this first showed up, with my friends at Give Campus and Community Funded and Scale Funder and all the platforms out there, I'm not trying to say drop that and go running over to Facebook, right? But Facebook can, become very competitive with our other platform friends in this space if they keep sort of improving what they're doing. And so I guess my opinion is keep an eye on this. You should at least be aware that other causes are successfully doing Facebook fundraising on your very campus. And there's at least a few institutions and at least one college president that have already now made a Facebook fundraiser their thing. So keep aware of that with respect to my good friend, President Knight there at Miles College. Okay, I think this is the section on giving days. We've already touched on that a little bit. If anybody wants to add any uses of Facebook on their giving day, chime in if you would. I want to make this point. This is a graphic from the College of William and Mary, which last I checked had the highest alumni participation rate for any public university in the country. And this is part of the reason why, to go back to Nikki's point about the usefulness of social media ambassadors. They'll go to the trouble to recruit people from each of their classes at William and Mary, and then it's not just for the Giving Day, it's for June 30th, it's for December 31st, it's for Giving Tuesday. So as far as giving days in Facebook, that's one of the primary roles that I see Facebook having on a giving day is unleashing that army of social media ambassadors. If anything else, anybody else wants to add to that, I'm not going to wait for people because I want to make sure we get through everything we wanted to say. Tori, do you have a giving day? And is there a Facebook presence on your giving day?
I am in the process of organizing our first ever giving day that will happen in spring 2021.
Well, I'm sure it'll be great. And next
I'm
time
hoping there will be a Facebook component. Yes.
Sure it'll be great. And next time we'll rehearse our discussion of that question. Next time we'll have something to discuss.
Okay, it's okay.
It's all good. In the category of other real-time stuff, let's see what I have here. Oh, for tribute gifts. So this is the classical languages teacher at the York School. This is up in Canada. And so a couple years ago when he was retiring, that made a really good, spontaneous, sort of real-time tribute gift opportunity. These aren't all that easy to predict, but is another, in my opinion, good use of Facebook. We get accused of spamming people with phone calls and emails, and even direct mail once upon a time was junk mail, right? And I think we run the risk of things like Facebook becoming another channel where people just want us to tune it down already. So my opinion is that when you can find date-specific stuff, somebody's retirement or a memorial gift, or Boston College I saw did one just because it was the first snowfall of the year, and that was a reason to reminisce and make a gift to Boston College. So I do like the real-time value of something like Facebook in a way that we couldn't always play with as much in old annual giving.
This is one that I have leveraged. We had a beloved professor retire last year, and we did kind of kept it hidden from him. It was a secret, so it became a surprise at his retirement dinner that we were doing a scholarship endowment in his name, and we leveraged Facebook and crowdfunding, and I think it was endowed within a month. So
there you go.
There you go. We used our FaceTime for that. Our Facebook.
I mean, so when I started an annual giving, if somebody was retiring or someone passed away, someone would come to the door of my office and wanted to know if we could do a letter, right, for the scholarship fund and or the tribute fund, which was fine and is still fine, but that was kind of the only channel that we could really think about. And so now to be able to be present in such a a precise way, when we don't necessarily know when all these things are going to happen. But it's not a bad way to think about Facebook in a positive way for people that want to celebrate somebody like this Natalie attired professor.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. What else do we got here? The live streaming thing. I first saw this, where else but at Notre Dame a couple years ago, where they went all in doing 29 hours, I think, of straight streaming of different stuff on campus. This is the only picture I have. That's Bob Golick on the right, who played pro football and now has a radio show on ESPN and is a mighty proud Notre Dame grad, as a lot of them are. I forget the woman's name on the left, but she is on ABC News, I think, and she was also a co-host for the day. And they just live streamed all this content on their Giving Day over 2 days, actually, April 24th and 25th. Facebook now offers easily the opportunity to be live streaming stuff. I've seen other institutions. Lawrence University is one that did 24 hours of content, interviews with the president, views from the new construction site, live from uptown at some favorite student sandwich shop. It all seems fun to me. What I don't know is how to evaluate its value. And so I'm appreciative that it can be done. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm still kind of searching for what's the validation of doing live stream stuff. So this is another open question. I don't have a poll, but if anybody has figured out a good way to do a live stream event and also sort of calibrate success with it, I felt like we ought to bring it up, but I don't claim to be what's the right live streaming.
Well, and I think what's exciting about the live stream is in the world we're in right now, I know our athletics department and our alumni association have both been leveraging this Facebook live streaming as a way to engage people that would normally be at events right now. And I know, Bob, when you did that Facebook pre-session workshop at Meeting of the Minds a few years ago, Facebook did not have closed captioning on live streaming, and they now have that, which I think removes that barrier for a lot of us institutions that they would not allow us to do it unless there was the closed captioning option. So that is available now.
Especially in the world we're in at the moment, I think the internet has opened up ways not just to stay connected with people, but to connect with people who weren't going to come to our in-person events anyway. And so, tomorrow night I'm doing a virtual wine tasting put on by a professor from my university, Miami in Ohio, that everybody remembered when we were students taking the guy's class. And, I haven't seen this guy since I left, which was quite a while ago. And so it's making me smile that they figured out a way to virtually connect with me, ironically, because we can't do anything in person much at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
our alumni association is using it for trivia nights every other week.
Yeah.
So there are definitely ways that the live streaming is coming in handy now. Again, though, how we measure it, I'm not sure, but.
Yeah. One last thing, and this is sort of a catch-all category. Like Tori and I have said in others, I know we're getting up to the top of the hour. If you can linger, we've got extra time available, but I respect anybody who has to dash off. This sample here from my school, I just wanted to make you aware. If you get postings in your feed and you want to know, why did you get that? Facebook lets you understand why somebody is showing up as a sponsored post, and you may find it useful just to learn about how you can do some segmentation yourself. So this is my high school, and they post this video from a graduating student, and I can click up in the top right-hand corner there, that ... and you see up comes the option of, why am I seeing this post? If you click on that, up comes a whole summary that I like St. Edward High School, and I've been following them for a couple years. I've shared their content with my friends, and I've watched videos before when they've been in my news feed. So that's all sort of an interesting window in how St. Ed's knows that I care, right? Because I've raised my hand in those ways with other stuff that they posted before. And that's how they kind of expand their web and do some selections about who they want their content to appear to going forward. I think that, oh, and there's my Mark Zuckerberg picture. So again, like Tori brought up, this is not to ignore anybody's concerns, which it seemed like they were put on hold for the moment, but are probably going to be back before too long. I think it's important to know what can be done on Facebook, but that's also not to take any of our audiences for granted and any of our relationships for granted. I don't think less of Give Campus because they're uploading my name into Facebook when I see them at a conference, but I can't presume that sort of reaction with everybody that we engage with. But
No.
Tori and I wanted to kick around some of what we see going on these days on Facebook. If you do anything going forward that you're proud of, let us know, because we're on the continued hunt, and we'll rope you in as a speaker the next time that we do this. Tori, anything else you want to add? We're back tomorrow.
We're back tomorrow with Western US, yes.
Round
and I did
two.
notice that Jill Bowline from Cal State LA had just unmuted herself. Jill, did you have something you wanted to chime in on?
Oh, sorry, I don't know how I did that.
Well, hi, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
I think you did that, Tori.
I swear I did not.
But be careful, Jill. Tori's watching. But Tori's going to lead round 2 of her Western States friends get together, and then next week we've got the Phonathon one, and then it's Ariel Coates from California Lutheran is going to lead a chat on student philanthropy on Thursday next week. So we've got a whole bunch of chatter going on.
Yes.
Anyway, hope that was helpful for everybody. I know we recorded this. I can see we got the chat, so we'll send all that out afterwards. Thanks to Nikki. Thanks to Paul. And everybody else who chimed in on chat. Tori, thanks to you as always.
Of course,
And,
thank you.
Tune in again sometime and share your Facebook successes with us. Good luck. Thanks very
Yes.
much, everybody.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.